Tonight, 4 turns 40. It's June 1988, and WBZ-TV 4 is celebrating 40 years of great television in New England.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jack Williams.
And I'm Liz Walker.
Here we are at the WBZ television studios, and tonight we're going to have some fun because this is the 40th anniversary of WBZ television.
And we're here to celebrate 40 years of great television.
Let's just step this way and let's look back in time if we could. First off, to the old television sets. As you'll see, they were big and yet the screen was very, very small. And this microphone, the big microphones compared to the little tiny microphones we're talking on today.
A lot has changed, Jack. You know, it's hard to believe that this was the image that New Englanders saw when they first turned on their TVs in 1948. And actually, they had to look at it a lot because there were so few shows. And here is the very first broadcast.
Well, here are a couple of guys that I've known for a long, long time, and I'm sure you recognize them very much so. Tom Ellis, Tony Pepper. Before Liz and I were a team, it was Tony Pepper and me that were a team, and before Tony and me, it was Tony and Tom.
The Ellis Pepper bandwagon.
That's right, and before that, it was Tom Ellis solo, and back in those days. In fact, let's go back even further. 1968 you began.
Yeah. Came here from San Antonio.
Well, let's reminisce a little bit about those days. Let's bring back a few memories for you.
WBZ-TV in Boston.
And that is Eyewitness News.
Tony Pepper, Channel 9 News.
Pretty good way to earn a living.
Now, Eyewitness News at 11 begins at 8. That's right. When you're tuned to Channel 4 in the evening, Eyewitness News is updated every hour on the hour. From Tony Pepper, Jack Williams, and from NBC at 8, 9, and 10. Watch Eyewitness News at 11, beginning at 8.
See, I look younger then.
How do you like those hairstyles?
Yo. Well, those bring back a lot of memories. I'm curious now, 1968, you were solo for until 74 you came, Tony?
74, right.
Yeah.
What do you remember about the time between 68 and 74?
Well, I remember the very good times. I had seven of the most wonderful years of my career here in Channel 4, WBZ-TV. I came here from San Antonio. I was telling my experience a while ago about encountering my first traffic rotary, Fresh Pond Park, at Route 2, at rush hour in the afternoon in the summertime, and I was about ready to abandon my car right in the middle of that rotary.
Well, thank heavens you didn't do that. And then a few years later, come about 1974, along came a guy from Denver, at least you'd been in California and Denver, and Tony Pepper was here, and they called that the Ellis Pepper bandwagon. What do you remember about that, Tony?
I remember when we were shooting the promos, I hadn't even been in town, a week?
Yeah.
And Tom was taking me around the city and introducing me to whatever we could find.
Construction workers,
cab drivers. And he took me up to this one guy down in the North End, and the guy leaned out of his car window and he said, "Tony, what are you doing here in Boston? You're supposed to be in Denver."
Well, it was interesting going back into those times in the mid-70s. First off, let's talk a bit about the mood then. That was the era of busing, as I came in 75. What do you remember about the mood of the newsroom? First you, Tom.
Let me go back just a couple of years before busing, and we had the Vietnam War and the Cambodia incursion, and one of the strangest things that ever happened to me in television happened right here in this studio, almost this studio. The newsroom was just across that, what is now a curtain. And during the 6 o'clock news one evening, after the Cambodian incursion, 75 people came right through our front door and marched right into the newsroom during our newscast and wanted to read a proclamation on the air while we were doing the 6 o'clock news. They were not violent people. They simply wanted to say their word and go. But there were 75 people who came and surrounded me at the anchor desk, and it was sort of a strange feeling to be on television and have this happen to you.
I know that was the start of the era, I know, of then of security. And Tony, the mood at busing was a very frightening time for Boston, wasn't it?
I would say yes. We were deeply concerned, and part of the reason that we were deeply concerned is because we knew what was coming up, and so we tried to advance and alert people and get as much good public information out as we possibly could, but still, as you know, the history tells you that there wasn't enough information to forestall what would eventually take place.
All right, let's bring back another face that I think will bring back a memory or two for you. He was here for a lot of years and went from here to Los Angeles, and that's where he sends his greetings. Let's take a look at Chris Canangla.
Thank you, Jack, and hello, everybody, and welcome to KCBS-TV in Los Angeles, land of the drive-by shooting, where it did not snow last winter and where, yes, everyone is beautiful. Jack, you asked me to recollect my most memorable moment at WBZ, and there have been quite a few. Other than Hoover, the famous Hoover tape, which I'm sure you're going to show before this evening is over, I would have to say it's the moment that happened to me my very first week at WBZ on the very first story assignment that I got, which happened to be the lead story on the 6 o'clock news that night. And when it was over, and I certainly was very, very nervous delivering that story, I think I relaxed a moment too soon, because as I was tossing back to the anchors in studio, I leaned back confidently and said, "Back to you, Lick and Jazz." And it was later, after the broadcast, that you came up to me and said, "By the way, which one of us was Lick anyway?" Congratulations on the 40th birthday party. I really wish I could be there to share it with you. And congratulations also to the best anchor team in Boston. What the heck was it? It feels like an earthquake, Jack. I think I gotta go now. Best regards to everybody. I miss you. This could be the big one. Bye. Did I make a mistake leaving Boston?
But you always toss to the wrong person. It's Liz, Chris, and thank you. We miss you very much, and you're right. We are going to show you the Hoover tape.
A sad day at the New England Aquarium. Hoover, the talking harbor seal, has died at the age of 14. Hoover, who spent nearly his entire life at the aquarium, could mimic human speech, some say with a New England accent. Oh, excuse me. Marine biologists at the aquarium are not sure what caused Hoover's death, but they suspect it may be related to molting. It's really a sad story, the annual process where a seal sheds its skin. Molting is very stressful for seals. Hoover was known to suffer more, pardon me, than other seals. I'm sorry, he sounded funny. In our Nature of New England report, naturalist Paul Erickson of the New England Aquarium provides an update on our current dry spell.
Chris laughed for that for days and days to come afterwards. The next two people we're going to talk to started here around the same time. One started as a sports reporter, and the other captured the mood of the late 60s and 70s.
In the second period, Bobby Orr brought it down, over to Sanderson, then to Orr for the goal. In the NBA, the Celtics' John Havlicek at 22, JoJo White.
Shelby, as I indicated earlier, is probably the worst thing I've ever seen.
We just turned onto Route 95, Interstate 95, northbound, about a mile from Seabrook.
And saw the birth of a new administration, certain to face its own share of vexing challenges. From the Kennedy Center in Washington, Peter Mehegan for TV4's Late Edition.
Peter Mehegan and Charlie Austin. Peter, you were here during the 60s, an intense time all over the world. How was it here in the Boston area?
Well, it was a very exciting time to be working in television, Liz. I was just out of college a year or so before I got into television, and to be covering people about my own age. This town blew up in the late 60s. It was really the focal point, the center of national protest, the Vietnam War. Charlie and I were reminiscing about it. We were on a different college campus every day. Buildings were being taken over, and it was a very exciting period to be in television.
It was a difficult transition because going from sports into news, I had just got out of the Army. I just came in here and started working. And the next thing you know, you're in a confrontational situation. Sports was fun and you could have a good time. And the next thing you knew, it was like riots in the streets.
And they didn't like us, Charlie, if you remember.
The police didn't like us.
Right,
the demonstrators didn't like us.
Well, our cameramen were targets. Remember the SDS would come at them with Vaseline to put on the lens to keep us from covering their activities. We had cameramen attacked, and the press were unpopular because we were covering we weren't telling the story the way they wanted to tell it.
Of course. And you were telling me that a lot of the stories that we watched from the rest of the country emanated from right here, a lot of the trials that were going on.
Right? Ellsberg trial?
That's right. I think that's why it was so exciting. The Spock trial, the Pentagon Papers.
Dr. Kenneth Edlin.
Right, and Martin Luther King, of course, the march he conducted right here in Boston. Much of the Civil Rights Revolution was...
Any one thing that stands out as the most exciting thing to cover? I mean, you've had so many during that decade.
During that time?
Yeah. Well, I think probably the most exciting thing for me was the University Hall takeover at Harvard University, because that sticks in my mind because we were in University Hall. They let us in that day, and Nathan Pusey, the president of Harvard, broke precedent. Harvard had solved its own problems for eons. But this time he called in the state police, and they came in at dawn, and I think it was a major change, certainly.
Okay.
I just love the sports.
Just love the sports.
I want
huh?
to get back to sports.
Just glad to be here. Next, we have a message from another special friend of ours, Natalie Jacobson.
Happy birthday, WBZ. When Kathy asked me to reminisce with you a bit, I'm not sure she realized how far back in my memory I'd have to dig. But then firsts are not easily forgotten. Like the first week on the job when executive producer Bill Hillier asked me to produce a show for kids to air every Sunday, beginning next Sunday. Any budget, staff, ideas? Welcome to television. For Kids Only was a news show for youngsters. I borrowed 3 news stories of the week from the news department, invited a panel of 5th and 6th graders to quiz an expert or a newsmaker on the topic. Bruce Schwegler and Wendy Davis kept For Kids Only going long after I left. It was 1970. Tom Thompson wanted a program to help Hispanics learn English. Another no-budget staff or idea assignment. But hey, this was getting to be fun. This time, instead of raiding the news department, I pirated talent from local colleges.
Today is Pepe's birthday?
Who would have believed that Channel 5's intrepid Jorge Quiroga began his career as Pepe el Magnifico? I suppose to the young people watching, all this might seem like the dark ages. In fact, it was just the opposite. WBZ and I were about the same age at the turn of that decade. We were unsophisticated then, just entering adulthood. We were daring and energetic. I learned much in my 2.5 years. And so it is with fondness and gratitude that I wish you a very happy celebration tonight.
I know that tune.
Really?
Yeah, what is it?
Happy birthday! I had tears in my eyes. I think it's time we bring in the cake, because we have something special for us.
Jack, here comes the cake. What a cake!
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
heavy, Tom. Oh, yeah. And isn't this beautiful? Look
The
who's
folks,
bringing
I
it
got to
in.
tell you, the folks at Montilio said that this cake, television, it's fully functional.
Let's get the cake.
Cut the cake and
I think
pop
let's
the
do it.
champagne.
Good night, everybody. Let's enjoy the cake.
Thanks for joining us.
Are there words to this song?
Happy birthday.
This WBZ special has been brought to you in part by new Sunoco Ultra 94, the highest octane under the sun. Massachusetts State Lottery, if you played your number today. Eastern Airlines, flying more places in the Caribbean and Florida than any other U.S. airline. At Eastern, we've got your ticket. And by Grossman's, the home improvement project store for the do-it-yourselfer in you.